Mario Maker 2 is a better game than Mario Maker 1 in almost every single way. There are far more course elements to work with, new level themes to build in, and even an entirely new game style. But even with all of that content, there are still some people out there that say they prefer the original game on the Wii U. And I get it, we all have our different opinions, so it's okay for these people to be wrong. I obviously disagree with that opinion, but there are definitely some things I miss about the original game. Despite Mario Maker 2 having more content, it doesn't have everything from the first game. It's very close to having everything, but the few features that are missing were some of the game's most popular. And that's of course seen with the main thing people point to when asked why they prefer the original Mario Maker over the sequel. One missing mushroom power-up is all it took for many to completely disregard Mario Maker 2. I'm of course talking about the... No, that's the wrong one. The mystery mushroom. This was one of the coolest mechanics Nintendo has ever added into one of their games. Essentially, by picking up this mushroom, Mario would take on the appearance of another character. This could not only be characters from the Mario series, but even other things like different Nintendo series, third-party video games, or I don't know, Shaun the Sheep, why not? There were 152 different costumes that Mario could wear with this power-up, each getting entirely unique sprites, and some even getting special sound effects. This feature was used to show off amiibos, as you could tap one in and unlock a costume. If you didn't have an amiibo though, you could just play the 100 Mario challenge and unlock a random costume that way. So much effort went into just this item alone, so it's understandable why so many people were sad to see it go. But hey, Mario Maker 1 still exists, and with so many costumes, some were bound to be worse than others. So today, I thought it'd be fun to rank every mystery mushroom costume from the worst to the best. I'll be judging these based on a couple of main factors. Primarily, we'll be looking at how good the sprite looks and how cool it is to play as that character in a Mario game. Each mystery mushroom costume also gets a unique taunt animation by pressing up on the D-pad, so having a more interesting or funny one can also help it standing in the list as well. Another important factor will be their sound effects, as certain costumes get voice clips along with unique victory and death jingles. So whichever costumes do the best in all of these areas will place higher up on my list. Obviously, that means my opinions will be heavily swayed by my personal experience, but that's the case for every YouTube ranking. I don't need to tell you that, stupid. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right in. Now, before we truly begin, I do have some unfortunate news. You know how I said Mario Maker 1 still exists? Due to the Wii U server shutting down a couple years ago, it's no longer possible to play online. Since not every costume is tied to an amiibo, that means a majority of the game's outfits are now completely impossible to obtain legitimately. The mystery mushroom outfits are lost media? That's especially bad because you may have noticed that I, the video maker, do not have every outfit unlocked. When I was 12, I was unfortunately too terrible at the game to beat Super Expert. But where I may have lacked in skills, I made up for in wisdom. I foresaw Nintendo shutting down the servers, so I made sure that before that happened, to download a level containing every single outfit in the game. Even though I don't have every costume unlocked, due to this decision, this video is now possible. So to actually kick off the list here, we have 152 Green Yarn Yoshi. Yeah, this was just a complete waste of a slot. This costume was made to go with the Yarn Yoshi amiibo, which would be fine had there not been a regular Yoshi amiibo too. There's both a green yarn and a green normal Yoshi in the game, and the sprites are barely any different. The sprite itself looks fine in a vacuum, but it would have been nice to have gotten literally anyone else instead. They do have different death and victory jingles though, with Yarn Yoshi having stuff from Woolly World, while normal Yoshi gets music from Yoshi's Island. While that is a cute touch, there are 3 other Yarn Yoshi costumes in this game, so it's far from being exclusive. I would be shocked if anyone disagrees with this last place spot. In my opinion, it's not even close. 151, Neki. Who? This is our first of many characters that I am not very familiar with. Seeing as I'm the one making the video, that's gonna hurt their chances to place well. I tried to be more generous with characters I thought were done well, but Neki just wasn't. He's the mascot of the gaming magazine Famitsu, but since he's wearing Mario's overalls here, it kinda just looks like Mario in an animal mask. Mario, stop! The mask doesn't work on Foxy! The sprite is fine, but what really holds it back are the lack of any unique sound effects and a pretty weak taunt where he just holds up his hand. Other characters that I'm not very familiar with at least have unique music stuff, so that's really what holds Neki back. 150 Mahjong Tile. Incredibly random choice for a costume, and I don't think it looks very good. Like, they really did just let anything be a costume, huh? I've never tried Mahjong before, but that doesn't make the inclusion of a real-life game piece any less weird. It'd be like throwing in a Jenga block or something. Only reason it's above Neki is because it does have unique victory and death music. 149 Volleyball Player. Literally, who wanted representation for the NES game Volleyball? I understand that there's a lot of NES character costumes because, get this, the original Super Mario Bros. Was an NES game, but this feels so much more random than the others. It does at least come with volleyball music too. $148 Bowser Jr. Alright, we finally got a character that deserves to be here. Wow, is he ugly. Yeah, I think Bowser Jr. might have gotten the worst looking sprite out of all of the costumes. He just doesn't have enough pixels making him up, and that's because they wanted him to be in his clown car. That's to go with his appearance in Smash 4, as most of the characters with Amiibo at the time were all of the fighters from that game. Due to that, every fighter in Smash 4 has a costume here, which is really cool. As long as you ignore the DLC fighters since they didn't bother to add them.
Except you stay.
But yeah, Bowser Jr. was heavily hurt by the need to fit with his Smash 4 look. Even weirder though is the fact that he doesn't have a unique victory or death jingle, he just kind of screams when he dies. He definitely could have gotten something from Sunshine, especially since most of the other Mario characters have their own special victory theme. Case in point, 147 Mario. Yeah, as much as I love the main man himself, he really didn't need a costume. Mario is the only true playable character in the first Mario Maker, so a Mystery Mushroom costume that's just him with his modern colors isn't really that interesting. He at least looks good, and I guess it makes sense to be here, but I don't think anyone was excited to see this. Funnily enough though, he does have death and victory jingles based on Mario 64. That was totally unnecessary since Mario could easily use the default ones, but it makes Bowser Jr.'s lack of unique music even weirder. If you still think this costume deserves to place lower though, it was also given an additional Easter egg of playing the wing cap theme when using a star. Only 4 costumes have unique star music, so that's gotta give this one a bit of credit. At the end of the day though, I think the fact that we're just playing as Mario in a Mario game stops it from being very exciting. 146, Frog Mario, and 145, Statue Mario. These are both also Mario, but at least they're representing something more unique by putting him in the frog suit and Tanuki statue respectively. Now you don't technically get their powers since these are just costumes, but since Mario 3 is a game style, they probably could have just added the power-ups to the game. The frog suit did eventually get to appear in Mario Maker 2, but the Tanuki suit is still nowhere to be seen. The reason I like the statue more is just because it's kind of funny that Mario runs with the statue. Both of these also get Mario 3 based music, but that's not really that special since it's just reused from the Mario 3 game style. 144, Celeste. Here we are, the first of a long series of Animal Crossing characters. I mentioned before that most of the amiibos at the time of Mario Maker's release was the Smash 4 line, but they weren't the only amiibos. The Animal Crossing series also got a ton to go with the game, so every single Animal Crossing amiibo figure also got a costume in Mario Maker. That means we have 16 Animal Crossing characters to talk about today, far more than any other series besides Mario itself. Now I love Animal Crossing, but it really did not need that many characters. Unlike the Smash line where everyone is iconic, kinda, the Animal Crossing series has a lot of characters that didn't really earn being here. I don't dislike any of them, but it really feels like these could have been replaced by more interesting characters like the Jenga block. So the worst of the bunch, I think, is Celeste. Again, I like her in Animal Crossing, but compared to other special characters, she is super minor. We also have her brother Blathers in the list, who's much more iconic, so we aren't even getting a new animal here. Add on that her taunt animation is just slightly tilting her head, and I think she earns the spot as the weakest Animal Crossing rep. 143, Lottie. Similar story to Celeste, though she was at least one of the most important characters in the spin-off Happy Home Designer. She's not really relevant at all in the main Animal Crossing series though. Also, since I didn't point it out in Celeste's segment, all Animal Crossing characters get death and victory themes based on Animal Crossing New Leaf. These are the same for all but one character, so I'm not going to mention it again. 142, Kicks. Once again, another very minor special character that has a taunt where they just look at the camera. I like Kicks the most out of these three, but he still didn't need to be here. 141, Chitoge Kirasaki. Taking a step back from Animal Crossing for a bit, we have this random anime girl. She's so sugoi. She's from an anime I've never heard of before Mario Maker called Nice Koi. That makes this collab feel very random, but who knows, maybe the show is super popular in Japan. I don't watch anime enough to know it's super popular anyway. I really like Attack on Titan though, they should have added my goat Reiner. I'm Mario. Not only is she from something I don't recognize, but she also didn't get any unique music, so that holds her back quite a bit. 140, Mario Bros. Obviously this is another Mario sprite, but it's at least a little more unique being based on the arcade game Mario Bros. I still don't think this was a super necessary addition, but it's okay I guess. I do like that his taunt is his game over pose, and it's nice that he got Mario Bros music. $139, Mega Yarn Yoshi. He works out at the library. This was to go with the Mega Yarn Yoshi amiibo, and I do think the concept is pretty funny. It is just another green Yoshi at the end of the day, but the sprite is at least significantly bigger. 138 Cat Mario, and 137 Cat Peach. I think the most memorable part about these sprites is how they would later go on to appear as Easter eggs throughout Mario Odyssey. You could hit them with Cappy to get either a heart or coins respectively. There's actually quite a few Mario Maker 1 elements that got to appear in Mario Odyssey, a few of which we'll continue to see as we go through this video. As for these two, they're just kind of alternate versions of other characters that already had costumes, so they're not super interesting. I do like the claw swipe sound that appears when they taunt, and the fact that they got 3D world-based jingles. 136, Builder Mario. Of these lower down Marios, I think Builder Mario is the most deserving to be in this game. This predates the Super Hammer power-up later seen in Mario Maker 2, so I think this acts as a decent substitute. This is also notable as being one of the costumes to get a unique unlock method outside of Amiibo's 100-man or event levels. In order to get this, you have to beat the game Gnat Attack. By shaking a muncher several times in the editor, you would eventually get some gnats spawning in, and if you swat them, the game will begin. I think that's really cool. I wasn't sure if I should boost it in the rankings because of that, but I decided to keep it here for now. To go with that, Builder Mario uses music from Gnat Attack for his death jingle. As for his flagpole theme, he just uses the Mario Maker startup noise. $135, Luigi. Okay, this one might be kind of controversial to be so low. Unlike Mario Maker 2, you can't play as Luigi in Mario Maker 1. I really don't think there was a reason for that. Luigi was present in every single one of the game style's original releases, so I think he really should have just been selectable. The Mystery Mushroom costume honestly comes off more as disrespectful, which is not the case for any other character. I've made it clear in my videos that I'm not the biggest Luigi guy and I definitely prefer Mario, but this does feel a little unfair. Plus, Luigi's sprite is literally just a recolor of Mario's. Hello, Mario. That does make sense because that's how he was in the original NES game, but because of that, this will always just look like Mario wearing Luigi's colors to me. At least Luigi does get some good music from Luigi's Mansion. $134, Shell Creeper. It's honestly kind of funny that they added this guy in as a costume, but not a normal Koopa. Shell Creepers were the original rendition from Mario Bros, but they're obviously much less iconic. He does have a pretty good taunt where he sort of scowls though. 133, Question Block. This is a cute concept, and I like how you can use it as a sort of prop hunt costume. Can you find Super Mario? Let me know in the Whoa, wait, did you guys see that? Obviously, this isn't a crazy crossover, and I'm sure it was super easy to add, but I do like it still. The taunt is kind of lame, and the fact that the music is the default does hold it back. 132, Spring. Pretty much the same exact story here, but the Spring has a better taunt as it takes on a similar look to its original SMB sprite. The Mario Maker Spring looks different, so it can better fit in a 1x1 tile, so this is a pretty cute Easter egg. 131, Mr. Game & Watch. Here we have our first real Smash character crossover. Obviously we had Mario, Luigi, and Bowser Jr. earlier, but they're in Mario Maker already. The reason Mr. Game & Watch is so low is because his sprite just feels a bit messy. I get that they had to have an outline here so you wouldn't have a black character on a black background, but the outline just looks way too thick. Worst of all though, he just uses the default victory music. His death noise is also just kinda lame. They could have at least remade the original jingles using Game & Watch noises or something. I also don't love how static his sprite is while running, though I do like him getting his parachute when he falls. I just feel like they could have done him a lot better than they actually did. 130, Mabel. Oh boy, another Animal Crossing rapid round. Honestly, the only reason Mabel is up higher than the others is because she's a much more important character, but her taunt is still pretty lame. 129, Reese. Definitely less important than Mabel, but the wave taunt is slightly cuter, and I have nostalgia for New Leaf. 128, Rover. Rover is a difficult one to judge importance on because he usually shows up as the first character in the game and then disappears for the rest of the playthrough. He's not even a unique species like other special villagers. He literally could be a normal town villager and no one would bat an eye. Despite all of that though, he is still pretty well known, and I think the way he smiles in his taunt is pretty cute. 127, Blathers. He's definitely my favorite guy of this bunch, even if he is a bit of a nerd and reads books. His sprite work is very well done, and I don't have any real complaints beside there just being too many Animal Crossing characters. But moving on from that streak, we have an even bigger one. The one that may or may not get me killed the most in the comments. When I look at this next group of characters, only one thought enters my head.
I have no idea who these people are.
Okay, well that's not entirely true, but this is where I put most of the characters that I either don't know or know very little about. Because of that, I don't really care about their inclusion, but if they were done well with sound effects, I had no reason to put them any lower. 126, Melody. Don't worry, Hello Kitty is way higher on the list, but I don't have anything to add for Melody. I'm not gonna say this is a wasted slot since she is probably very popular, I just personally don't care all that much. One thing I will give credit for though, is the fact that they sort of did what I was talking about for Mr. Game & Watch, where they remixed the classic victory and death jingles to fit their franchise. $125, Mallow. This guy is from the Pushmo series, which I have never played. Sprite work and music is well done here, just not a franchise I care about. $124, Hikari, and $123, Dombe. These two are both from the same series known as Shin and Onigashima. As far as I can tell, this is a Japanese exclusive NES game that I can only recognize now because they are spirits in Smash Ultimate. I like how their sprites match with their original game, but again, I don't have a ton to say here. They share death and victory jingles. $122, Ayumi Tachibana. Again, another character I only recognize from Smash Bros. She's from Famicom Detective Club, which is a much more relevant series nowadays compared to our last few entries. If you all remember the Emio thing that everyone said was the scariest thing ever, that's the same franchise. I do like the music used during her taunt as it makes her thinking pose feel a lot more ominous. Of course, that's also along with her other unique jingles. The reason that she's a more memorable character for me is because she was originally considered to be added as a character in Smash Bros. Melee, but was cut because she lacked relevance outside of Japan. Guess that doesn't apply to everyone. 121, Arino Kacho. This is just based on a real-life guy, the host of the show Game Center CX in Japan. That's honestly kind of funny, and he does have some pretty good animations, like his point towards the camera. I also like how he talks during his death and victory jingles. 120, Barbara the Bat. She's from the series Jam with the Band, and unsurprisingly, I recognize her from Smash Bros. She actually used to be an assist trophy in Brawl before being demoted to a Mii headpiece in Ultimate. This is the closest we'll get to Batman in Smash, I guess. Not really much else to say with her, other than she's also got unique music. 119, Dr. Lowe. This guy is from Big Brain Academy, which is an ongoing series, but not one that I've ever been able to try. I think my brain is too small. Dr. Loeb has a pretty unique look, and the fact that he's on a Segway kind of thing is pretty cool and cute. I like his taunt animation with the star quite a bit, and of course he's got his own jingles. (118) Iris Archwell. She's from the Street Pass game Monster Manor, which means I probably should have known about her, but for some reason I didn't. I think I was too busy losing in Find Me. I do really like Iris's sprites though, especially her taunt holding up the magnifying glass. My favorite thing would have to be her death jingle because it just sounds super dramatic. Of course, she also has a victory theme as well. (117) Mario.
Say that again?
She's an original character in Mario Maker who was made as a tutorial to help people learn the game. I think it's pretty cute that she got a costume, not one that I would really use a lot, but it's neat regardless. She doesn't have a unique victory theme unfortunately, but she does talk when she dies. (116) Super Mario-kun. Going from Mario to Mario, I like this rendition a bit more than the others we've seen so far because of how stylized it is. He's based on the comic series of the same name, and it's just kind of a fun inclusion. No unique music sadly, but he does have this when he ducks. I'm just surprised that's not number 1. (115) Yamamura. Once again, we got another Mario Maker tutorial character that got their chance to be playable. I like Yamamura a bit more though, because I feel like their design translates over to a sprite a bit better. Plus I like that it coos during its victory jingle. (114) Baby Metal. This is our first sprite to have us technically control multiple characters at once. I generally like these as they really stretch what's possible with the Mystery Mushroom system in a fun way. The main problem holding the sprite back is just the fact that I'm not familiar with the source material again. This is based on the real-life band Baby Metal, and all 3 members are shown in the sprite here. I've never listened to any of their music before, and I sadly never will because they don't get unique music in Mario Maker. That feels like a pretty big missed opportunity, but maybe if it was in the game I would have gotten a copyright strike, so I'll take that as a blessing I guess. (113) Discoon. This guy was the mascot for the Famicom Disk System, and while I obviously don't have any connection to that, for some reason I just really like his sound effects. (112) Bubbles. Here we have another retro character from the NES, this time being the main character from Clu Clu Land. Honestly, I kind of have the same thoughts for him as I do with Discoon. He's got a good sprite with some really solid sound effects. The reason he's higher is because I actually have played Clu Clu Land. A singular time, I'm basically a pro. (111) Yu Ayasaki. Okay, I genuinely did not know what she was from before making this video, but apparently it's the same series as Barbara the Bat. It looks like her game in this series only ever released in Japan though, and I struggled to find any footage of it on YouTube, so she might just be the most niche character in the game. Everyone just calls her Hatsune Miku anyway, so we could just pretend that's her origin. She fills the role of being a generic anime girl costume, so from my memory, she was actually used quite a bit in levels, and I do like her at least a little bit more than Shitoge Kirasaki. That's also helped by her actually humming along to her death and victory themes. 110 Goomba.
You're gonna turn into a Goomba!
From here on out, we only have characters that I recognize, and I'm sure that's the case for you all as well. Unless you've managed to escape the Shy Guy mind virus. It's pretty cute getting to play as a Goomba, and it's nice that it's got a slight reddish tint so you can tell yourself apart from the enemies. Not a super complex sprite or anything, but this did lead to some pretty creative levels. He doesn't have any unique music, but I think that's alright since he is just a basic Mario enemy. You know who it's not okay for? Most of the Pokemon! For whatever reason, the Pokemon Company hates fun. They'll try to cover it up by making a good game, but don't fall for their lies. I'll be honest, I'm really close to falling for the lie. But for some reason, the Pokemon Company did not let Mario Maker use any Pokemon sound effects or music for their costumes. I don't know why they were so picky, but it makes the original 6 Smash Bros. Pokemon feel incredibly incomplete. So because of that, I'm placing all 6 of them right next to each other. They're only this high on the list because the sprites at least look good. Let's just rapid fire through them. 109 Pikachu. I think he's got the weakest sprite of the bunch. 108 Lucario. He's probably my least favorite Pokemon of the 6. 107 Mewtwo. I like Mewtwo a lot, but I do think his sprite is a little bit weak. 106 Jigglypuff. I think the lifeless stare taunt that all the Pokemon have works best on her. 105, Charizard. I just really like Charizard. 104, Greninja. He's my favorite Pokemon ever, and I think he's got the coolest looking taunt of the bunch, as he actually does a little bit of a pose. All the Pokemon just staring for their taunts was another weird choice, but I would have accepted it had they all had music. 103, Ganondorf. Here we have our first of many Zelda sprites. Unlike Animal Crossing, I do feel like all of the Zelda costumes were well earned, and that of course is the case for the main villain of the series. Sadly though, I just don't really like his sprite. It feels very messy, and it's kind of hard to read any of it. I'm not even exactly sure what he's doing in his taunt if I'm being honest. At the very least, I do like his sound effects. Pretty much every Zelda character got different music from one another to represent their character or different games, which I think is really cool. Ganondorf got music from A Link to the Past relating to Ganon's Tower and defeating a boss. Now, A Link to the Past is a bit of a weird choice since this is Ganondorf from Twilight Princess, but the music does fit his vibe perfectly. 102, Lucas, and 101, Ness. Both of the Earthbound boys are back to back because again, their sprites feel a bit off to me. Not as bad as Ganondorf, but something about their limbs just look kinda weird. I do think Ness looks a tad better than Lucas, but the difference isn't that big. I like that each of them got different music though to represent their entry in the series. "100, Form and Spike. This is kind of just a fun inclusion because of Wrecking Crew's connection to the Super Mario series. There's nothing crazy about this, but he does look good and come with unique sound effects. 99, Master Belch. Kind of a strange choice to include, but I do like how he looks in this game more than Ness, so he's a slightly better Earthbound rep. He's a very unique character, just being a pile of sludge, so I'm sure he's great for some sort of sewer level. 98, Sidestepper. Here we have another enemy from the original Mario Bros, but unlike Shell Creeper, this guy still exists in games today. Not in the mainline Mario series, but he does appear quite a bit through the spin-offs, even recently becoming playable in Mario Kart World. It's still very funny that he doesn't hold the steering wheel. Speaking of holding things, the reason I put him up this high is just because I think the way he grips onto the flagpole is very funny. 97, Wario. Because this is using his Smash Bros amiibo, this is based on his biker outfit from the WarioWare series. Now, I personally prefer the overalls, so I do think it's a bit of a shame that he doesn't have a secondary outfit. Or at the very least, he could have put on the overalls during his taunt. As it is now, his taunt is a very lame head tilt. For a character as wacky as Wario, that feels pretty underwhelming, even if I wasn't looking for an overalls reference. The sprite does at least look very good, and I like his Wario Land 3 music. "96, Villager.
Hello?
Obviously, of the Animal Crossing characters we've seen so far, he makes the most sense to be here. With that being said, he might have the weirdest looking sprite of the Animal Crossing crew. His design just doesn't really translate perfectly, so he looks kinda creepy. It's also a bit weird that there's no female villager, but I'm not about to ask for an 18th Animal Crossing rep. 95, Rosalina.
Yay!
Odyssey put Rosalina in the top 100? Well, the sprite really doesn't do anything wrong, so I didn't have a great excuse to put it low. I also like that Luma's here, even if it is a bit small. But don't take this as praise for Rosalina. This is actually a sneaky way to praise Mario Odyssey instead. In that game's Moon Kingdoms, a sprite based off this costume is used as an Easter egg, just like Cat, Peach, and Mario we saw earlier. Now, I would probably prefer no Rosalina reference, but it's whatever I guess. Oh, and of course, she has a victory theme from Mario Galaxy. Her death theme is the same as Cat, Mario, and Peach, likely because she's a playable character in 3D World. 94, Diddy Kong. He's never really been one of my favorite characters, but he works well. The banana taunt is one of the better ones, and I like the Donkey Kong Country music. "93, Mario Trio. Okay, this sprite is definitely pretty messy, but I like the concept still. This is based on the crew from Mario and Luigi Paper Jam, which was a new game released around the time of this costume. Now honestly, I think they probably could have just done a Paper Mario sprite instead, but this is also pretty funny. I like how their taunt completely changes the sprite to Papercraft Mario as well, which is a good tie into the game. To go with that, they of course also get some music.
Mamma mia!
92, Baby Mario. This sprite is taken directly from Yoshi's Island and honestly works really well here. Obviously, it is just another Mario variant, but I do think it has a bit more justification for being here. And also the crying is funny. 91, Mega Man. Obviously, it's really great that he's here, and I think his taunt is fantastic with him pointing out his arm cannon just like in the games. Yeah, his sprite just doesn't fit this size very well. His head is ginormous compared to his body and makes him look more like a mega baby. His saving grace is of course his iconicity and the great music he brought with him. '90, Samus. Much like Mega Man, she's another character that definitely deserves to be here, but I feel like the sprite just didn't do her justice. It's better than Mega Man for sure, but her limbs just feel really flimsy. I also don't like her taunt as much as Mega Man, but she does make up for it by having her dash sprites replaced with the Morph Ball, which is a really cute touch. And of course, music from the Metroid series is great too. '89, Kapp'n. Not only is he one of the more iconic Animal Crossing characters, but he's got that little guitar strum sound effect when he does this taunt. Most other Animal Crossing characters have the generic taunt noise, so that makes Kapp'n stand out. Having his whole boat appear in the taunt is also a good touch. 88, Birdo. Happy that Birdo is here, and she has a really good taunt animation, but something about her sprite just doesn't look fully right to me. I think it's the fact that her body is pretty much just one shade of pink, whereas our other Mario 2 rep Shy Guy has a bit of shading. To go with the theme though, just like Shy Guy, she uses Mario 2 jingles. 87, Olimar. I'm happy they decided to separate Olimar and the Pikmin into two different character slots, as I feel like them together wouldn't look the best. Speaking of though, I feel like Olimar's spacesuit just doesn't feel complete. I get this is meant to be an NES sprite, but his body just being a solid color really doesn't do his spacesuit justice. Like even just a blue and red pixel to represent his buttons would have helped a lot. At least he does still have Pikmin based music. 86, R-Wing. Pretty funny concept for a costume, being based on the spaceships from the Star Fox series. I think the R-Wing flying sprites look really nice, but I do have to say that I don't love the walking sprite. The legs just look really weird, so I'm happy they at least go away while it's running. Of course, we also have the Star Fox crew coming up later, but what's interesting is that the crew actually has different sound effects from the R-Wing. All of their sounds and music come from the original SNES game, but the R-Wing gets music from Star Fox 64. That touch definitely wasn't necessary, but I like that they went through the extra effort. 85, Fighter Fly. I mentioned earlier in Builder Mario's segment that you had to play through Nat Attack to unlock him. That is also the case for Fighter Fly, but now you have to beat it on hard mode. That is extremely difficult to do, and I personally never was able to finish it.
I just can't do it, I can't.
Luckily, Fighter Fly is just a random Mario Bros enemy, so I don't really care. Yeah, I totally don't care. Honestly, the sprite here is just fine, but I do really like the taunt where it becomes a Freezy. That was a great touch. 84, Sky Pop. This is our first Mario in a vehicle outfit, which I actually quite like since I feel like they can lead to some interesting levels. This is based on the final course from Super Mario Land, and I think the sprite fits well despite how small it has to be. I do think a flying vehicle is a bit less useful than some of the others we'll see soon, just because we have flying vehicles in Mario Maker already. This costume also uses Mario Land music, and since that's not a game style, that's a great addition. 83, Waluigi. Next to the Mario Odyssey outfit, this is the closest he's been to being playable in a mainline game. It is pretty disappointing that he just uses the generic Mario jingles since they probably could have used some Mario Tennis stuff, but the sprite does look good and a lot of people like Waluigi, so I think this placement is fair. 82, Donkey Kong Jr. Honestly, not much to say on this one, other than this being a pretty perfect port of his Donkey Kong Jr. sprite. I always like seeing this guy get mentioned in things. He's like a friend you only see on super rare occasions. Sound effects and music are also taken straight from that game. 81 Yoshi, 80 Pink Yarn Yoshi, and 79 Light Blue Yarn Yoshi. Obviously, since these three are all recolors of the same sprite, it makes sense for them all to be next to each other. Hey guys, what about me? I think they did a good job with all three of their sprites, and of course, we've already heard the music for each of these, which is also pretty good. Now, you can technically already play with Yoshi in both the Mario World and NSMBU game style, so that did hold this group back a little, but not by that much. As for their order, I pretty much put them in the order of which color I like best. I do like green more than pink, but since Pink Yoshi wasn't in Mario Maker at all, while Green Yoshi was in the two styles I just mentioned, I let Pink slip past it in this ranking. 78, Dr. Mario. While yes, this is another Mario variant, Dr. Mario is the GOAT, so I'm just happy he's here. I love that he pops a pill during his taunt, and the Dr. Mario jingles are great to hear as well. '77, Toad. Alright, normally Toad would be a whole lot lower on this list, especially since he just uses the generic jingles, but he does have a really unique attribute. At the end of the 100 Mario challenge, there's always a cutscene between Mario and either Peach or Toad depending on the difficulty. This cutscene will actually change based on the game style and power-up Mario had leaving the final level. That includes the Mystery Mushroom costumes, and Nintendo actually decided to give 3 outfits unique pieces of dialogue. Toad is one of these 3 characters, so if he sees another Toad, they'll say, "Ah, Captain, it's terrible! Princess Peach has been taken to another castle." My acting is fantastic. This was of course extremely rare to encounter since you had no control over what stage you got as the last one, but I still love that they included this. That boosted Toad in the rankings quite a bit, even if the costume and gameplay is nothing too special. 76, Isabelle Winter outfit, and 75, Isabelle. Obviously, she makes perfect sense to be here as probably the most iconic Animal Crossing character. It's also kind of cool to see one of the new fighters in Smash Ultimate appear way before that game alongside the Smash 4 roster. Now, she is being held back by the fact that her taunt is mid, and I also really don't think she needed 2 outfits. Like, I get that she had 2 amiibos, but come on, when you're only giving Wario 1, that feels a bit unfair. She easily could have swapped into her winter outfit for her taunt, which is similar to some other Animal Crossing characters we'll be seeing later. Yeah, we still have quite a bit more. 74, Digby. Obviously, far less iconic than his sister, but I gave him the edge here because I think his taunt of putting on the raincoat is really cute. And he also had the decency to only take 1 slot on the roster. 73, Nabbit. I don't know what it is, but I always like seeing this guy in new Mario games. I love how proud he looks in his taunt animation too. It's kind of funny how persistent he's been ever since appearing in New Super Mario Bros. U. The main downside is that his victory and death jingles are just copied from the NSMBU game style, but I also don't really know what else they would have picked, so that's fine enough. 72, Captain Toad, and 71, Toadette.
Oh yeah!
I like these two a lot better than the normal Toad sprite because the Captain variants feel more like distinct characters. Plus, Captain Toad and Toadette here both have music from the Captain Toad game. It's pretty interesting how they are slightly different from one another too. As for their order, there are a couple reasons why I put Toadette above Captain Toad. For one, this is her only costume, whereas Captain Toad technically also had regular Toad. More importantly though, they forgot to give Captain Toad the exclusive line that the Toad costume had in the 100 Mario Challenge. That's especially bad because the line makes even more sense on Captain Toad since it literally refers to him as Captain. It's obviously not a huge deal, getting the sprites themselves right is more important, but it is kind of a sad cut. 70, Pikmin. Like I said before, I'm very happy that these 3 were separated from Olimar. I think keeping this as a simple Pikmin trio works a lot better, and I like that each Pikmin has a different design for the flower on their head. I also absolutely love their crouching sprite. My favorite detail though would have to be the fact that the Pikmin get their iconic death cry when they die. The only reason this trio isn't higher is just because their organization feels a bit weird. They're all perfectly in line with each other, which isn't bad, but other trio costumes have characters set up in a visually more interesting way in my opinion. 69, Inkling.
Yes!
This is the first of 5 Splatoon costumes, and I think each of them turned out pretty good. This is just a green squid, though I do like that they transform back into a human using their taunt. I just feel that of the 5, this is the least interesting of the bunch, for a reason I'll get to when we see the other 4. This is still really good though, and of course it has Splatoon music to go with it. 68, peppy hair.
Good luck.
Me and my brother quote that stupid voice line constantly. It's taken straight from Star Fox on the SNES, and it's supposed to be a Peppy saying good luck.
Good luck.
Now, it doesn't really sound like that, so my brother and I used to always think it was saying goodbye instead. So we just kind of got into the habit of saying
Good luck.
whenever one of us was leaving. And that brain rot has stayed strong for 10 long years.
Good luck.
So for that, all of the Star Fox crew moved up on the list a ton. As for Peppy being this low, while it is cool that he's here, I feel like he's a bit more of an obligation to include than the others. I like what Fox, Falco, and Slippy do a lot more, so he just feels like a bit of a filler character to me. He's still well done though, and has the same Star Fox music as everyone else. '67, Chibi Robo. Maybe he should belong with the other characters I'm not super familiar with, but honestly, I do think Chibi Robo has a really cute design. I like the way he holds his plug over his head, and of course, the Chibi Robo music is good to hear as well. '66, Feline. Another character from a franchise I'm not super familiar with, but Monster Hunter is way bigger than the other ones I put lower down. Sorry to bruise the ego of every Pushmo fan left. Not only is this a bigger franchise, but the taunt to Feline taking on its more cartoony look was just a really funny idea. The main sprite is maybe a little too messy since they are trying to do a lot of texturing on the fur, but it is still decent. And of course, can't forget the Monster Hunter jingles. Wait a minute, does he count as another Animal Crossing character? '65, Balloon Fight. Honestly, I couldn't really tell you why I like him so much more than a lot of the other retro NES characters. I guess it's because Balloon Fight has stayed slightly more relevant by having a whole stage in Smash and a pretty good remix. Of course, that music also carries over here into Mario Maker. '64, Nikki. She comes from the 3DS application Swapno, and she's another one of those characters that I just like to see show up and stuff. I remember being pretty happy to see her as an assist trophy in Smash Bros because, I know that guy! The sprite work is pretty good here too, along with her jingles. '63, Zero Suit Samus. This is one of the very few list videos I've done where I prefer Zero Suit Samus over regular Samus. I just think they did a better job on her sprite here. It doesn't really feel too flimsy, unlike her Power Suit sprite. She also doesn't stare into the camera while standing anymore. Not sure why normal Samus did that. This was also totally unnecessary, but Zero Suit Samus also has different jingles from regular Samus. '62, Timmy and Tommy. This is what I was wanting Isabelle and Wario to do with their taunts, as they go from their standard apron look to their business attire. These two are also both pretty important Animal Crossing characters, so I think putting them up higher than the rest is fair. Plus, having two characters to play as at once makes them extra special. '61, Tom Nook. He's sort of the reverse of his... Okay, for some reason I thought they were his nephews, but they aren't related at all. Anyway, he goes from his business attire from New Leaf back to his apron look with his taunt. I again think that works quite well, and since Tom Nook is a much more important character than Timmy and Tommy, that made me want to put him up above them. '60, Cyrus. Okay, in the grand scheme of things, he's definitely on the lower end of important Animal Crossing characters. But he has a slightly more unique death sound than every other Animal Crossing character. I think it's really funny that they included his snoring sound effect. In New Leaf, he spends a lot of his time sleeping, so that is a super cute and fitting touch that I was honestly pretty surprised to see them do. '59, Shulk. It's kind of weird that he only speaks in Japanese, but it's fine I guess. I really like how his taunt looks holding up the Monado, and as the only Xenoblade rep, he does a good job. Of course, he's also got a victory theme to go with that. Oddly though, his death theme is just the generic Mario jingle. Not really sure why they did that. '58, Pit, '57, Dark Pit, and '56, Palutena. Honestly, my thoughts on the Kid Icarus trio are pretty similar, so I just bunched them all together. One detail that I do like about these three is that their sprites aren't based on their original NES appearance, but are rather original sprites based on their Kid Icarus Uprising designs. I could understand some wanting to see their original NES sprites, but honestly their original designs are kinda... As for their order here, I think Palutena got the most interesting taunt since it resembles her Smash 4 render. Then I put Dark Pit above regular Pit because he actually got a unique death jingle, whereas Pit and Palutena share theirs together. '55, Rossetti. Not only is he one of the most iconic Animal Crossing characters, but they give him a little bit of extra detail with his taunt. Instead of just making the generic taunt noise, it actually makes the angry expression noise from Animal Crossing. That obviously fits Rossetti pretty well, seeing as his anger has scared millions of children across the world. I also like the mix of his sprite being under and above ground. 54 Robin, 53 Ike, 52 Lucina, and 51 Marth. You know, you kind of forget how quaint the Fire Emblem roster in Smash was before the DLC hit. These are the only 4 from the franchise in Mario Maker, and I think they did a pretty good job translating all their designs into the Mario style. You'd think for more detailed characters like this, they wouldn't work as well, but no, I think they all look great. The only real downside about these 4 is that they all share the same death and victory music. This comes from Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light, which is the game Marth is from. So while that music does fit for him, I feel like the other 3 probably should have gotten music from the Fire Emblem games they're actually a part of. I get that Marth's game was on the NES, so it kinda fits in that way, but if they can give Dark Pit of all characters a unique death theme, they probably could have done that for the rest of the FE cast. As for their order here, Marth is on top because the music fits with him best, Lucina is next because she has my favorite taunt with her mask, after that is Ike because he's my favorite character of the bunch, and then Robin is last for being the least notable. 50, Zelda. Similar to the Fire Emblem cast, I think they did a great job translating a pretty detailed character into sprite form. This is based on her appearance from Twilight Princess, which makes sense because that's her appearance in Smash, but it does raise a few questions. The taunt idea of her turning into Sheik is cute, but she doesn't do that in Twilight Princess. Additionally, instead of having Twilight Princess music, she uses pieces from A Link to the Past. Maybe this was subtle foreshadowing to Zelda's redesign in Ultimate. So yeah, there were a lot of weird choices with her, but if you don't think about it too hard, this costume is pretty good. 49, Little Mac. Not much to say on this one, other than his sprite translates over very well, and I like to hear Punch-Out music. My favorite part about this costume is the fact that he does an uppercut whenever he jumps, which is a really cute touch. 48, Shy Guy. This sprite is pretty much ripped directly from Mario 2 USA, and I'm happy they made that choice, seeing as they're basically allergic to making this a game style. My brother's favorite character is Shy Guy, so I guess I'm also happy for him. Should have been Dry Bones. 47, Hello Kitty. Okay, I really do not have any connection with Hello Kitty at all, but she is super iconic, and I remember being super surprised to see her get added. They translated her look over pretty well. It's very different from the other sprites, but I think it captures her unique art style well. She is another one that just stares into the camera when standing still though, which is mildly creepy. 46, Shaun the Sheep. This was one of the most surprising collabs out of all the Mario Maker event costumes. His sprite does look a little weird and flimsy, but I don't care. It's still crazy that Shaun the Sheep of all characters is in this game. His taunt looks great with him stealing Mario's outfit, and he sounds super sad when he dies. The only major issue I have is that he doesn't have a unique flagpole theme, but otherwise, this was a great collab. 45, Tingle. At Mario Maker's launch, Tingle was the only Zelda character in the game to not be in Smash Bros. Blood thinks he's on the team. Despite him being a horrific freak of nature, I do appreciate him being here as he uses music from Majora's Mask. That's my favorite Zelda game, so I had very heavy bias. His taunt line is funny too. 44, Toon Link. I like the shrug animation quite a bit for a taunt, and it's nice to hear some Wind Waker music. I do think some parts of his sprite aren't the best, particularly his really thin legs, but from a distance, he certainly works. 43, Undo Dog. He's another Mario Maker rep like Mario and Yamamura. The reason I like Undo Dog more is because, well, I don't know, I just like dogs. He has a really good running sprite with the reset rocket, and he also whimpers when he dies. 42, Duck Hunt. Of course I had to put the dogs back to back, but I like Duck Hunt a tad more because he's actually a crossover costume. That means he has special sound effects from his home game to add in. His taunt is also pretty funny. I like rapidly snapping the duck's neck to the camera. 41, KK Slider. Another dog? KK Slider is very notable as he's the final Animal Crossing costume we have to talk about in the game, and he's in first place for a couple reasons. For one, he's a very iconic character to the series. I mean, he even got skinned and put into Smash Bros. Secondly, he has one of my favorite taunts of the bunch where he sits down to play his guitar, even including a special sound effect. And thirdly, he's got a completely unique death sound effect as he both howls and strums his guitar. It's clear that they put much more effort into him compared to the rest of the Animal Crossing cast, so he certainly earns a spot up here. 40, Daisy. I do find it kind of funny that Daisy was a DLC costume rather than being in the game at launch. Like, she got beat out by Shell Creeper, how do you recover from that? Her sprite looks great though, and it's nice that she has Mario Land sound effects. 39, Ashley. This was kind of a surprising character for the base game, but I'm happy she's here because they did a great job with her. Her design fits really well with the sprite style, and she has a lot of great sound effects with her taunt and jingles. It does again make me a little sad that Wario doesn't have his overall, seeing as Ashley could have represented the WarioWare series, but it is what it is. 38, Starfy. Okay, realistically, I know nothing about Starfy besides him being an assist trophy in Smash Bros, but they just have such a contagious whimsy about them. I love how the sprite is ripped directly from the Starfy series, and that also goes for the music as well. Starfy's got another one of those taunts that are really fun to spam too, or if you want, you can kinda make it look like he's saying something. "37, Arcade Bunny. Yeah, he got hard carried by his fantastic taunt. The Nintendo Badge Arcade is a whatever collab, but that taunt is absolutely amazing. His sprite in general also looks great of course, and he's got music to go with it. 36, Captain Falcon. I really like how his look translates into the Mario 1 art style. He maintains his aura while still fitting perfectly over Mario. F-Zero music is of course always a treat to hear as well. The only reason I didn't bring him up higher is because I really feel like he should have had a voice line. Captain Falcon's voice is one of the most iconic parts of the character, so it not showing up in his taunt feels like a huge missed opportunity. Even if it was just him going, "Yes!" I think that would have been so much better. Speaking of a character that gets voice lines in her taunt, 35, Wii Fit Trainer.
Come on.
I just find the way they implemented her to be really funny, having many of the actions you can take get replaced by yoga poses. That even includes walking in her Smash 4 render pose, which doesn't really make sense, but it is funny to look at. Add on the Wii Fit music, and I have no reason to put her any lower. "34, Professor Egad. Showing up Captain Falcon again with a very funny voice line. I just found a lot of entertainment with spamming the taunt with him. It's cool to see Egad in an almost mainline Mario game too. I still think he deserves to be in more spin-offs. 33, Wii Balance Board. This honestly fits more as a character than even Wii Fit Trainer does, but that doesn't make its inclusion any less funny. The animations on this guy feel just like how the balance board moved in the actual Wii Fit game. I love how miserable they look when they're ducking. I also really love that Wii Fit Trainer shows up in the taunt, even if I'm sure it was super easy to just copy over her sprite. 32, King Dedede, and 31, Meta Knight. These two have sprites inspired by Kirby's Adventure, and while I have the main man himself a bit higher up, these two are still really good. Their sprites are pretty stylized compared to the other characters, and I think it works well for this group. Of the two, I definitely prefer Meta Knight because he's got a cooler taunt with his sword. All three Kirby characters also share the same music. 30. Kart Mario. Okay, this one might seem crazy to be so high up, but like I said before, I think the vehicle outfits for Mario are really useful. If you want to make a level about Mario driving somewhere, this outfit is one of your best options. There's no Koopa car in this game, so that makes this outfit a whole lot more helpful. They also do a fantastic job with the details here, having the glider pop out while jumping, and of course having Super Mario Kart music. This is also one of the few costumes to get a unique star theme, coming once again from Super Mario Kart. "29 Silver Mario, and 28 Gold Mario. Again, might seem crazy to have Mario variants this high up, but they gave these costumes a ton of special attributes. For starters, these just look very good, but I think I might have a bias towards liking metallic characters. Holy aura. But to add even more to the look, these two costumes get unique sparkle particle effects that no other costume in the game has. That makes them both feel extra special, and in addition to sharing the Mario 64 music the normal Mario outfit uses, these two also get unique star themes based on the metal cap. They really went above and beyond with these costumes, so even if they are just Mario, I still wanted to put them high up. 27. Peach. Not only does the sprite look good and have great Mario 2 music, this is one of the 3 costumes to get unique dialogue at the end of the 100-man challenge. If she encounters Toad, he'll say, "Princess Peach, how did you escape?" Oh. It's just a costume. If Peach finds Peach, Peach will say, "You look strangely familiar. Thank you so much for making it all the way here." Just a really cute detail all around that boosted her up quite a bit on the list. I also have to appreciate the fact that this sprite is based on her modern design rather than the original NES look. 26. Donkey Kong. He's another character with a thumbs up, so I pretty much have to like him. In fact, I liked him so much that I actually built him out of Legos. Wanna see? I don't know what it is about this sprite, but I think he just looks super cute in this art style. Definitely happy they went with his modern design rather than going with arcade Donkey Kong. He still uses arcade jingles though, which I think is a fair compromise. "25 Mr. Saturn. Yeah, honestly, his eyebrow taunt is just really funny to spam. It's probably the single simplest taunt in the entire game, but that's kind of what makes it work so well. It also helps that Mr. Saturn is one of the most iconic Earthbound characters and translates super well into this art style. I think that makes him easily the best Earthbound costume in the game. 24. Rob. Not only does his sprite look really good, he actually has different colors based on the region of the game. If you didn't know, Rob is actually red in Japan instead of gray. Us Americans can still see his Japanese color scheme in Smash Bros through a costume, but what's interesting is that in Japan, this costume is actually his default appearance. That means there are 2 different versions of Rob's amiibo for each of his colors, which is reflected in Mario Maker. Now, I don't think there's any way for an American player to see the Japanese Rob in this game, but I do still think it's cool that he's different between regions. Anyway, he's also got music from Gyromite. "23 Tetra. This has a similar idea for its taunt as Zelda, where it switches her to her alternate form. What makes Tetra's more interesting though, is the fact that her version of Zelda isn't actually a mystery mushroom costume in the game, so they made this sprite entirely for the taunt. Both it and Tetra's regular sprite look really good, even better than Toon Link. Add on that Tetra has actually fitting music from the Wind Waker unlike Zelda, and I think Tetra deserves to place much higher. 22 Wolf Link. We obviously haven't seen normal Link yet, but he's one of the few sprites of the Smash Bros character to not be based on their Smash Bros appearance. Wolf Link here picks up the slack by representing Twilight Princess Link, but obviously in a much cooler way because he's a wolf now. Just like me. This sets him apart very well from the normal Link sprite, and of course allows this to also have Midna riding his back. The way she points during the taunt looks pretty good, so I'm happy they went with this idea. Plus, this also finally gives us some Twilight Princess music after both Zelda and Ganon decided to go with A Link to the Past. 21 Falco,
Good luck.
20 Fox,
Good luck.
and 19 Slippy.
Good luck.
And here we have finally made it to the rest of the Star Fox crew. Their sprites all look great of course, but I already mentioned that the voice line is really what's carrying them up so high. It hasn't left my head ever since I heard it, and at this point, I doubt it ever will. As for their order, I put Slippy as my favorite because he's a funny frog. And also he has the best taunt animation with the shrug. 18, Totem Link. Now this is probably the least iconic Zelda character to get a costume, but I don't care, it's really funny. This is based on Triforce Heroes, whose whole gimmick was focused on stacking the links on top of each other. They do such a good job squishing the 3 links together while still maintaining their detail. It's just such a fun concept for a sprite that they nailed super hard, making it one of my favorite costumes to have multiple characters. The music is also unique for them and sounds pretty good. "17 Bulbasaur, 16 Squirtle, and 15 Charmander." Wow, they actually put effort in! These 3 Pokemon came out as DLC costumes, well after the original 6 Smash Bros. Pokemon we saw earlier. I think the Pokemon Company finally realized how lame they were being, as now we have both sound effects and Pokemon music. I love that the sound effects are each of the Pokemon's cries straight from the game. All 3 of these sprites also just look extremely good, even better than the 6 we saw earlier in the list. Obviously I still wish those earlier Pokemon had sounds, but I am happy they eventually got their act together. 14 Excitebike. Out of all the retro NES characters, Excitebike is the one that I have the strongest connection to. Obviously he's got his track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that I really like.
Anyone who says the track sucks will be punished.
But I have actually played a decent bit of Excitebike on Nintendo Switch Online. I'm very good at it. On top of being a character that I like, he's also got a bit of that vehicle benefit I mentioned earlier. Obviously it's not Mario on the bike, but if you want to make a course about motorcycles, this is your best bet. Him doing a wheelie for his taunt is also perfect, and we of course got Excitebike jingles. 13 Sheik. It may seem weird to have Sheik so much higher than Zelda, but I think they just did her a lot better. That mostly comes down to playing Zelda's Lullaby from Ocarina of Time in the taunt, which fits super well and makes the transformation more memorable. Speaking of Ocarina of Time music, Sheik uses it in her jingles, which makes sense seeing as that's the Zelda game Sheik is from. Literally, the only negative I can think of is the fact that she transforms into Twilight Princess Zelda instead of Ocarina of Time Zelda, but honestly, I think I can look past that. 12 Ice Climbers. While I said Excitebike is the game I have the strongest connection to, the Ice Climbers have a funnier sprite. They didn't have to include both of them, but I like that they did as a homage to their appearance in the Smash series. This was also before they came back in Ultimate after being murdered in Smash 4, so it was very cool to see them again. The best part of the sprite though would have to be the taunt because it's really funny. Popo just celebrating while Nana bawls her eyes out is hilarious. Oh, and of course Ice Climber music is nice. "11 Murray, 10 Callie, 9 Inkling Boy, and 8 Inkling Girl." We saw our first Splatoon character several entries ago, but I think these 4 are much better. Not only are they more iconic characters, but they also have a special mechanic. While they appear in their human form on the surface, if they're in a water level, they'll actually transform into their squid appearance. That is such a cool detail. I love that they went through the effort of putting that in for these guys. Although canonically they should just die. The original squid we saw before obviously doesn't change while underwater, so that made him a lot less interesting for me. These 4 were ordered based on which taunt pose I like best. 7 Link. As I mentioned earlier, instead of being based on his Twilight Princess look, he takes on his original NES appearance. I think if any character was going to do that, it makes sense for it to be Link because of how iconic his original sprite is. Obviously it fits right in, so much so that it even got upgraded in Mario Maker 2 to be its own power-up. I really do wish they went further with the crossover power-up idea, but at least Link's was a ton of fun to use. It does make returning to just the costume for this video feel a bit strange, but back then it was pretty perfect. He's also got fitting music coming from the first Zelda game. 6. Dr. Kawashima. I have never played Brain Age before. Like I said, I'm very stupid. I mostly know him for his assist trophy in Smash, but even then, his event level is one of my favorites here in Mario Maker. Just playing as a disembodied head is such a funny concept, and I love how the event level made you put his head on different block-built bodies. The level of detailing on the sprite is also perfect for the character while not straying too far away from the Mario 1 look. And of course, to top it all off, he's got Brain Age music. 5. Bowser. Okay, this might seem like a crazy one to put this high up on the list, but I do have pretty good reasons for it. For starters, I love the look on this guy. Instead of being based on his NES sprite, he uses his modern colors, which I think looks so much better. His taunt pose is also a perfect mix of being menacing and cute. I loved it so much, in fact, that I even made it out of Legos. Wanna see it?
He fell off the shelf a couple years back. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
He's also got Bowser-specific music for his Death and Flagpole themes. I love that the death one specifically is being taken from Bowser falling in Mario 1, literally a perfect choice. But the thing that truly boosts him all the way up here on the list is the fact that he's our last character to get exclusive 100 Mario Challenge dialogue. If he sees Toad, he'll say, "Bowser! Oh! I thought you'd taken the princess to another castle." If he sees Peach, she'll say, "Bowser, thanks for saving me from yourself." They really went above and beyond with this costume, so I think it earns its spot in the top 5. 4. Pac-Man. I love how they incorporate both his Pac-Land sprite and his original arcade sprite in his running animations. I think that's a pretty perfect way to translate such an iconic gaming character into this game style. To go with him, he's also got his famous jingles from the arcade game. Honestly, this one was just a pretty simple slam dunk for adding a super famous character. 3. GLA Mario. Mario just getting into a real-life car is such a funny concept, and they nail it so hard. The fact that you can see his head peeking through the window is great, the sprite art is fantastic, and the taunt of him stepping out of the vehicle could not have been any funnier. Even outside the game, they had specially made ads for this collaboration, which were absolutely horrifying. This being another vehicle costume also makes it work for the same reasons I enjoyed others like the Mario Kart. If you want to make a level where Mario has to drive somewhere, GLA Mario is a perfect fit. And even though I don't think they had to, they even remixed the Death and Victory jingles to fit with the car. I genuinely have no complaints. This is a perfect costume that I love a lot. If you people disagree in the comments, you're actually just wrong. 2. Kirby. I have very strong bias here because at the time of Mario Maker's release, I was a Kirby main in Smash Bros. Obviously times have changed because of me playing a certain Minecraft character that everyone seems to hate, but I still have a ton of nostalgia for using the Kirby costume because of that. I remember a lot of my levels even including a secret Kirby hidden somewhere in the course.
He's always watching.
But even outside of my nostalgia, they just did him perfectly. His sprite fits into the Mario setting seamlessly, and his taunt is incredibly iconic. Add on the Kirby music that we already saw with Meta Knight and King Dedede, and I think Kirby was done perfectly. But even with all of my bias, I do think I have to crown someone else as the winner. 1. Sonic the Hedgehog. Finally, the Sonic Bros have won a ranking on the Odyssey Central channel. I mean, this costume is just perfect in every way. Sonic being a longtime rival for Mario, actually joining into a series was really cool to see. I mean, they already crossed over before, but I think there's a big difference between an actual platformer and Olympic slop. His sprite also translates extremely well. They did have to tweak it a bit to fit with Mario's size, but they actually did a good job this time. Again, sorry Mega Man, you didn't deserve that. Similar to Samus, Sonic will also use his spin dash while running, which is another great touch. And of course, Sonic brings plenty of iconic sound effects, like the ring sound during his taunt, and jingles coming from Sonic 3. So for having an amazing sprite, being a long-awaited crossover, and having great sound design, I think the Sonic costume is easily the best Mystery Mushroom outfit in Super Mario Maker. But anyways, that's it for this really long video. Do you despise Timmy Nook and hate me for not putting him in last? Let me know in the comments. I've really got to rush to get this video out on time, so I'm just going to keep this conclusion short, but I really hope you all enjoyed this one because this video was a ton of work. I've been wanting to make this video for a really long time, and I had a lot of fun with it. But before I go, I've got to thank my members being Mario Master 101, Drop D Mike 75, Virtual Tomato, Extreme 5026, Maidzio2, Adept Tuna, Daniel Castillo 1262, Aaron 0729, Anton 3669, Smuggy, Guy 112, Danny Gaming Central, Young Smoky BP7, Zach Pro, Flame 765, Peanut Brown of Gallery, Gorpasaurus, BFDI Macaron, Stephen Hafner, Bell Slimes, Night Vision 101, PDX, Wilbur, Jenny, Mogo Mogo Boat, Stuffy Ant, Rich229, Jehojim, Leonard Von Hevering, Magnus and Larslot, Trifector, Tibby, Hippopotamus, Levi Strux, Nuclear, Cassie Channel, Blessed Tiger, Yanni the Duck, Trader Mo, Mevins 2001, Display Changer, B Major 2003, Sir Musty, Belandor, Cinder CC, Jade Avery, Thicky Reiki, Ungenio TM, CW McCain, Tesseract, JubeTube, Jameson Pageson, Z Frost Keep, and Kristen Flattery Sequel Edition. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.